Okay, here's your video analysis. I know you've been waiting for it. Sorry, I wasn't feeling so good. Just needed some time to rest. But yeah, you got a lot of great potential here. It's pretty exciting to see such a young kid with so much talent, and it's really exciting that after watching your video, man, there's a lot of things in here that you do well, but there's some key points in here that you can even do better. So the good thing is that there's room for improvement, which is going to make you even a better thrower. So I hope you're excited about learning that. A lot of the things that I'll talk about here, I will explain in more detail in our lessons, but I don't want to make the video too long and too overwhelming, and it's hard to kind of process a lot of things. But I will show you some key points. Okay, we'll talk about the kinetic chain when we get to the lesson and what the kinetic chain means, but let me just show you some things that I've noticed here that can really help you, and I definitely want to talk about your arm. In fact, let me talk about your arm first of all. Okay, so the arm here, your throwing arm. The reason why you're having throwing arm issues is for this reason right here. If I draw a line right at your shoulder height, let's back you up a little bit here. Your shoulder height's here. Now you're also slunched over a little bit, so your shoulders would be up a little bit more if you weren't hunched over. We'll talk about that a little bit. You're kind of folding like an accordion a little bit. But watch your elbow go above that line pretty significantly, okay? Not only that, but it also goes behind your body. That's called um, hyper. It's really called hyperangulation, but when it gets up like that, but when it gets behind the body, it's horizontal abduction. And yours is a pretty extreme case. What you want to see with your elbow is we want the elbow to be about here, because when you get it up this high, what happens is it impinges the shoulder. It decreases the mobility. It decreases the amount of space in the shoulder to move. And all the little tendons in there, especially the supraspinatus tendon, that tendon will scratch against your acromion bone, and that will cause some significant shoulder pain. So if you're having shoulder pain, that is the reason. So we need to fix that, and I know how to do that. So when we get to our lesson, I'll explain that. We just need to shift our weight earlier because you have too much time. I mean, look where your front foot is. Your front foot is kind of high because your force vector, which is down here, and I'll explain that later, this is kind of high too. So you're really not driving down. So we want to get that foot down a little sooner so that that arm doesn't have to keep going up because it's waiting for the foot to get down, so it has nowhere else to go. All right, now the hyperabduction is when the elbow gets behind the body. Now you have a pretty extreme case there. If I were to draw an angle here, look at how far back that arm is, 62 degrees. Well, maybe it's not 62. Let's get that back again. Excuse me if I cough. Um, been battling here. All right, so there's that picture there again, and let me get that up again. All right. You're about a 53-degree angle there behind the body. What you really want, you want more of a 25, 23, 24-degree angle. And you are you're almost double that, maybe a little more than double. That's about how far you want that elbow to go behind the line of the trunk, okay? What happens there is that it creates a lot of torque on the elbow because now the elbow's got to come back, and it's starting to receive some of the forces of the body. And it's coming from here to back down here. And the fact that you're not using your trunk effectively is also going to cause the elbow pain. There is a good position for the elbow at the ear, real good. But once we get that elbow out there in front of our body, before we start to internally rotate, internal rotation starts right about there. That's going to cause a little bit of some arm pain there, UCL pain. So we want to avoid that. So that's where your arm injuries are coming from, and I will show you in lessons how to get that better, okay? So let's start from the beginning here, and I'll try to move as quickly as I can so it don't take forever. Let's take a look at your momentum. Momentum is key at the starting point. So at the point where you break your hands, how far did you get off the rubber? We know in all high velocity pitchers, they're off the rubber quickly, and they're off the rubber by the time their hands break much further than you are. So we can work on some of that, okay? So you have a little bit of momentum to work on, okay? Let's get you out further in the delivery. Let's try to stay more vertical with the upper body instead of crunching down and folding downward. See how your body here is kind of, your shoulders are kind of falling down this way. Your face is kind of falling down this way. Let's try to stand up tall. And that's going to help you out, especially when we get to hip to shoulder separation. Okay, so we get you out here. This is called your loading phase. The loading phase of delivery is when all the weight's on the back leg, and you are now driving out at a good speed. Now, at this point here, we stop the video because we want to see where the knee is. Once the knee has passed the hip, here's where the hip is. You've passed the hip. We want to take a look at the back leg. High velocity pitchers are very, very good at getting linear. That means that they want their legs to be more towards the angle of where the pitch is going. So if you're throwing this way and you're going downhill, we want the legs to look like they're going downhill. Yours is more vertical, so you're losing velocity there too. We want to get that knee. At this point, when the front knee overtakes the hip, we really want to get this knee in line with the hip. And if I draw yours is here. It's vertical. All the high velocity guys are able to get that leg into a linear position by just shifting their weight better. All right? And since you have no weight shift, you hang on that leg right there too long, and then you start to right about here is where you start to get the weight onto the inside part of the leg. But we really want to get that leg there at this point, start linear so that we can start driving out. Okay, another point where we can work on. How about right here? This is a high skill activity. This is not something that normal kids your age are going to be able to do, but you're so advanced that it's silly not even to tell you. Okay, so here as the front foot starts to turn into landing, okay, obviously when you're better at it, you'll have that force vector here. The angle of the leg will be better, so you'll have more drive. But notice your back leg. Take a look at your ankle area here. The weight of your foot is too far back, which means that you're not able to really extend that ankle and get onto the ball of the foot to rotate that foot. And what's happening here is because you're not able to do that, number one, you're not able to get explosively out. So there's no acceleration here. We need more acceleration into front foot plant. You're just rotating the back leg, and watch the knee. The back knee is just going to rotate down. It's going to collapse downward, and the ankle is going to collapse downward instead of extending out. So you're going to get this rollover effect with the back leg and the back foot. It's going to roll over. Okay? We don't want that. We want an extension. We want a powerful extension into this to transfer forces faster and more forces faster. So there's actually an acceleration here from here as that front foot opens to here. Your body actually accelerates. It doesn't stay at the same speed. Yours is staying at the same speed because you haven't been able to really get that ankle extended and drive into front foot plant, okay? What it also does, of course, this is a huge, huge point if you really want to improve velocity. Once you get the foot into this position here, which is where you really want to be, just before you plant your foot, notice where your hips are. They're all the way open, which is good. That's really what you want. Well, maybe they're open right here. The problem with the rotation of the back leg, so you're a back leg rotator. The problem with the rotation of the back leg and the lack of foot drive there and ankle drive is that you don't get the hips to clear, and that is vital if you want to throw hard. So you have tons of velocity left in you. It's amazing, and you're throwing hard already as it is. So listen, you got to get the back hip right here to turn. When the front foot lands, that back hip needs to be completely turned. This back hip should be here. And the front foot should be, the back foot should be there. Okay? So something's there that we need to, focus in on, that you definitely can do because you're very athletic. Okay, one more thing before we end. Front leg. The front leg also needs to be linear, but it also needs to be stabilized. And the reason why it doesn't stabilize is because the back hip is still moving. The back hip is still moving at this spot. Now, normally when the foot is down, the hips are locked into place. They're already rotated. And the shoulder now will get that good hip-to-shoulder separation, but you don't get any hip-to-shoulder separation. Watch how your hips and your shoulders spin at the same time. See that? That's only because you didn't get that ankle drive and into acceleration into front foot plant. If we go back to the front leg real quick, the front leg needs to stabilize and not drift forward. And the reason why it's drifting forward so much is because the hips have not fully rotated. They're still in the process of rotating. So that's a lot of pressure for that leg to handle. It's a lot of weight and force for that knee to handle. So if I drew a line at your knee when your front foot plants, that knee should not drift at all, but let's watch. It not only drifts, but because the hips are still rotating, the knee also turns out this way. So you're landing on an unstable leg. Once you learn how to land on a stable leg, you will throw a lot harder. So we're learning on how to transfer forces from the back leg here to the front leg, how to stabilize, how to get this leg a little bit more linear, and that'll happen with a longer stride, which will happen from a better leg drive at the end of your loading phase. Okay? So I hope that helps you out. We can talk more detail the next time we meet. In the next video I put up of you, we'll look at some other things. We can talk in more detail about, or more specifics about things that we see in that video. Okay? So I hope you watch this with your dad. And if you have any questions, please shoot me a line. Okay? I'll send this to you real soon.